Got some fresh baked goods from the Cabin Fever Junction homestyle baking and small batch cannery. They've been open for about 6 months, but man, this pepperoni cheese stick is great. And we got a fresh loaf of white bread that I'm ready to dig into and try as well. Okay, so we are at the Chehalis Fish Hatchery. Let's see if there's any staff that can answer any questions about Bigfoot or Chehalis Lake. And beyond that, I guess we're going to walk around a little bit the outside perimeter and see if we can't find some of these branches that were allegedly broken off. Got some salmon here. We're outside the fish hatchery. And we're walking to the river access point. I've seen some fishermen kind of walking out this way with their poles. And I'm assuming that this is where our fishermen friends would have come down by the hatchery to put their poles in the water. And so this is where they would have heard about the twisted branches or observed them themselves or however they learned of it. So I'm kind of walking back here, looking for broken branches in the trees. I went inside and asked them if they had heard anything, and they didn't say anything. One guy was very dismissive, and he thinks it's misidentification, and other people didn't really mention it, and they just kind of left and said good luck. It could be that they just haven't heard anything, or they don't believe it. They're being honest. Or they could naturally be a little bit more dismissive of it and withhold possible information because they don't want it to compromise what they're doing here at the fish hatchery or whatnot. The area is kind of opening up a little bit. We're getting to the channel of the river, I suppose. You know, we're in a very open area. There's not any mountains nearby. There's some trees, but the closest mountain or ridge is up this way. And it's not a very big one, and something would have to come down from there and cross and then come out here to the river and the backside of the salmon hatchery I mean, this thing would have to navigate some residential area. It'd have to walk across a road. It'd have to sneak around some buildings. It'd have to make itself kind of unseen in an area where people are likely to see it. It's hard to believe that an animal could come through from any direction, but I guess really it isn't. I guess maybe this place doesn't get all that much traffic. Maybe it is quiet most of the day, and you get a few visitors that come from hot springs that are ramming the roads just a few miles up. And whatever this thing is could follow the river. There's plenty of rocks out here. It would leave scarce tracks, but I feel like if we're careful, if we look closely, we might see some depressions in the moss. Might get out along the banks, might get along some sand, and find some curious prints. And of course I'm still looking for tree breaks, but it's hard for me to kind of fathom where this thing would come from. I don't know the area around me right now, and I can't see mountains, but that doesn't mean that it can't live in the bottoms, that it can't live along the river, in the valley. It's just kind of exposed where we are right now. And so I'm a little bit of a skeptic of finding something right here. We get back into dense woodland, maybe it's a different story, but I don't know what we'll find out here. As I traversed along the river, a hypothesis started to form. The water was really shallow, and with the presence of a fish hatchery nearby, there would have been some historical presence of salmon spawning in this area. That means that this river and this particular depth would have been an opportune area for something like a Sasquatch to fish in this section of river. The shallow water would have made it easy to grab things, and the nearby vegetation might also provide some nutritional value. Even though this area might be rich for food, it is relatively exposed, but during nighttime hours, a nocturnal animal might be able to come in and harvest its bounties without being noticed by man. As we ventured onward, I kept a close eye along the banks, in the sand, along the moss, looking for tracks, as well as looking along the tree line for tree breaks like what the fisherman described. We're going deeper on this fishing trail. I don't know how far it goes. I mean, these guys might go for days to get out here. This could be a multi-mile type thing, you know? An area where you'd hike in and set up camp and hike out the next day. I don't know how long this trail is. I'm starting to see some picnic tables and stuff off to the side though. Here's a gate. We're somewhere in the middle of a campground. I'm going to head back before we get turned around. I think we're far enough to where we wouldn't be considered near the hatchery now. I feel like if there was stuff going on in this area, the guys would have said something about so-and-so campground. So we came, we tried to look, we tried to ask. Ultimately, everything's pointed towards Chehalis Lake. I feel like we'd be wasting our time here. looking for something that it was either never there in the first place or isn't here anymore, or is just so hidden within the network of confusing trails that we just wouldn't find it. And so as we go to Chehalis Lake, I'm wondering, what's the likelihood of anything going on up there? At least it'll be remote and quiet. I'm trying to ignore the fact that it's going to be in this weather, 30 kilometers up a rough gravel road with potholes. Okay, so on our way back along this trail, because we kind of wandered off the trail on our way out, I did see this. Looks like kind of a twisted branch here. Pretty big in size, but ultimately, I don't know. I guess that is kind of hard to break, but I'm only using one arm, and that is kind of high up. But I mean, look at it. If it was natural, and see, now that's rotten, it would have been kind of sticking out on the trail, I think. I think there's a possibility a person did that. Okay, so kind of got a little bit lost here. So when we came in, we didn't go on the fisherman's trail. We went on some open rock area. We underestimated how vast this area was going to be. And when I think of my local little fish hatchery at home, there's like one little loop trail and a little side trail that'll take you down to some streams and stuff. And I thought this was going to be like a quick little river access point on a little side trail. And then it opens up and we're kind of in this big clearing area, as you had seen. And coming back, it was a little bit more confusing, and I wanted to see how far we were from the fish hatchery. And we were on this fisherman's trail, and when I looked at Google Maps, it had said that we were on the other side of the river. So geographically, Google Maps has inaccurate information as to where the river is. And so I thought we had crossed the river, and I was confused as heck. I didn't know if I could trust the navigation, and we kind of ran off trail a few times and started moving in a certain direction, and then we started moving out into a clearing, and then we saw a side trail that cut through and thankfully took us back. So we kind of had to make a movement through the network of unmarked trails and kind of align ourselves, to get back at the hatchery. And just now can see the vehicle, and holy crap, that was a little bit of a scare, just because we didn't expect it. Didn't expect to get turned around out there, and then all of a sudden we were. So I'm all soaking wet from tearing through the wet underbrush.